Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash, the show where we cut through the noise and show you how real estate professionals are using AI to win. I'm Rajeev Sajja, and every week I talk with people who are actually doing the work, not just talking about it. Today's guest is Brad Carroll, founder of DAKLAB Real Estate outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. He speaks about giving agents the easy button with DAKLAB.AI that collapses time for real estate agents. Let's get into it with Brad. Well, welcome to another episode of Real Estate AI Flash. And usually we have agents that share how they're best using AI, but today I have a thought leader that's building stuff that agents use, and I'm excited to welcome Brad Carroll of DAKLAB from Raleigh. Is that Raleigh is your town, Brad?
Yeah, right outside of Raleigh. Yep.
Right outside of Raleigh. So welcome to the podcast, Brad.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. I know I've known you and your dad, Bobby, for a long time, and you've been in real estate for over 2 decades, I see. So yes. I'd love for the listening audience to get a little bit of your backstory. And I know you have a company that's you're building agent solutions, and we'll get into some of the AI stuff that you're working on.
Sure. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting story how I got into real estate. My dad in the late 80s was a real estate agent, but strangely enough, it didn't really kind of influence me to do that. I'd always been a kind of an entrepreneur spirit, and so out of college, started doing some general marketing, and I had one real estate agent that was a client, Linda Craft. 20 some years later, she's still a client. But she invited me to a 3-day conference. And so the first day, and this back in early 2000s, so the first day, the speaker said, hey, for everyone's homework, I want you to go on this site and try to he was talking about virtual assistants. So try to find a virtual assistant to do a logo or some type of graphic design. And the lady beside me said, I'm not tech savvy. I'm not going to be able to do this. And so I had an idea, and I said, you're going to be able to do this. In fact, by tomorrow morning, you're not only going to have a new logo, you're going to have a new website, new email marketing, new branding, new business cards, the whole 9. And she basically was like, that's impossible. Like, what idiot would do that in a day? And I said, oh, by the way, it's not going to cost you anything. And so when she said what idiot would do that, I turned to her and said, this idiot. And so went back to my hotel room, stayed up all night doing all that work. Unfortunately, didn't have the help of AI back then. And the next morning, went down to the business office, printed it out. And so when the speaker said, did anyone do your homework? I had handed that printed off, mock-ups and everything over to her. She shot her hand up and said, yeah, I got all this stuff done. And the speaker said, who did this? And she turned around and goes, this guy. And so at the next break, I had picked up 20 or 30 clients, like instantly. I called my wife and said, well, I think we're in real estate marketing now, and ended up having lunch with the speaker. By the 3rd day, he was inviting me up on stage, talking about SEO and all that. Went on to work a long time right alongside of him, doing some speaking and some other gigs with him. But it was kind of an interesting thing, and I love to tell that story because just one night of a losing sleep, but just totally changed the trajectory of just showing value, and it has paid off many, many times for me since then.
Yeah, that's an awesome story for sure. And for those of you that are listening and not watching this on YouTube, Brad's wearing a T-shirt that says "How's it going?" and the first word is HOUSE. So it's sort of a good play for words in real estate for sure. So before we dive into DAKLAB and all the cool things with AI that you're building solutions for, what was your first light bulb moment, Brad, with AI, and kind of talk us through it?
Yeah. So, I like I said, I'm a techie, so I like to chase the new thing. And I kind of thought through this, like back in, I guess it was 2018, before large language models, we were kind of playing around with a lot of like machine learning, intent-based AI, back in the days of Dialogflow and some of those other tools. And so, but it really what was the light bulb moment for me, and some of the things that kind of propelled us into creating some of the tools that we had, was looking at AI and especially ChatGPT and seeing everyone focus so heavily on prompt engineering, and it was like learning a new language. And the aha moment for me was when I realized that we're focusing on prompt engineering and giving it all these prompts because it doesn't have context, and we're trying to give it context. So I took a little bit of a different approach and said, well, I could create like the perfect prompt for this, or I could just start feeding it data. And I thought to myself, like, imagine if AI already knew my branding and my logo and my colors, my real-time access to the CRM. It knew the emails that I sent and the open rates of my newsletters. Now, all of a sudden, I don't have to worry about all of this information of, this perfect prompt. I could literally say, I need a new email, and it'll go out and say, oh, well, these last 20 email newsletters, these are the ones that did the most, highest open rate, click rate, etc. So that light bulb moment was really of saying, if I feed, and I think the success of companies is based off of your ability to like gather the data, feed that data, and then leverage that data in AI. And so to me, that was kind of the big thing that that kind of spurred me on to build some of these other tools.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you bring up a very good point. A lot of people, when we get access to AI, we start to learn about garbage in, garbage out. So you get better with asking the right questions. Is a basic skill we talk about. Then some of us built custom GPTs that sort of know the context and repeatable tasks and all the prompting. You don't need to learn prompting for that. And then you take it to another level where it actually is fully branded to you, which is where sort of DAKLAB.AI went. And let's kind of dig into that a little bit. I mean, most agents, to your point, are not going to be prompt fluent. I mean, they're not going to learn. It's a different language. They're very good at human connections and building relationships, and need the simple, easy button. Okay, so click the button, stuff happens, and it really looks good, and the output. So let's talk a little bit about, and you sort of alluded to it a little bit with DAKLAB. So talk us through the product now, where it stands, and just the vision of where you're going and some of the components of it.
Yeah. So it's really been an evolution. Like I said, I've owned my marketing agency for 20 plus years, and then a little bit later we built a software where we've got a back-end CRM that's connected to the site. I mean, much like a lot of software products that kind of combine the website, the CRM, email marketing, text, phone integration, etc. And so here recently, of course, we've been really focused on incorporating a lot of AI into the CRM side of things, where you literally, after a meeting, you can say, hey, remind me to follow up with John Smith next week, change him to a hot status, add this in my calendar, etc. But we really wanted to create a separate tool that wasn't, you didn't have to be a client of DAKNO or anything like that. And like I said, what we just started to do is ask real estate agents, what are those main pain points that you think you could leverage AI with, but you've got to be able to make sure you've got that perfect prompt. So what we did is we created a tool set of probably 10 to 15 of the most common things that we know that can make an agent's life a lot easier. And so by doing that, and like what we were talking about earlier, of incorporating those things like their logo and real estate law, contract analysis like that, we've been able to create something that I think is pretty cool, where literally if someone says, now you don't have to be that prompt engineer. If someone says, I need an email to connect with my database, it will automatically go out and pull your logo, your colors, your voice, your style. It knows the best practices to always end, start with a good hook, always end with a PS. And so now all of a sudden you don't have to go through and remember to give it all that prompting. And then we just kind of continue to apply that. So whether it's contract analysis, you can drop a contract in and it'll tell you, extract all the dates and all that, inspection analysis. And so we just really kind of created this tool set of a lot of different, those most common AI tools. And so now you don't have to think about, should I use Claude here or ChatGPT here or Grok there? We handle all that on the back end to make things really, really easy on the agent.
Yeah, yeah. And I've played with, in preparation for this, I've played with DAC Labs a little bit, and I've given it to a few people to play around. I think you have the framework to build something that's very, very useful for agents, right? So like a property snapshot, all the things that productive agents do, going into a listing appointment, right? There's a certain
Yeah.
things that you need to do for the property, learn more about the property. Then you have contract, you mentioned, inspection report analyzers, right? That's another one that you have in there. And then also with the recent release of Nano Banana from Gemini, right? You sort of did the virtual staging and the imaging, and that is going to a whole nother level. And as long as that easy button is there, it's like natural language, ask it to do something, and it just does it versus trying to
Yeah.
actually build the backstory. I think you're onto something there for sure. And we'll put a link to DAKLAB.AI in the show notes, and maybe Brad will give an introductory offer to all the listening audience. We'll
Oh,
see.
we can definitely make that happen.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
for
I'm
sure.
sure we will. So we'll put the link, and so you can kind of play around with it, because the whole goal is to collapse time. I mean, any activity
There you
you're
go.
doing more than anything, like I did something earlier this year, Brad. I looked at everything that I do in my workflow, in my role, pre-AI, how much time it took. Anything over 30 minutes, I looked at those tasks and I said, how often do I do it? Repetitive, time intensive, energy draining, data heavy, all of the things that we deal with. And if it is more than 2-3 times a month, I try to apply AI to it. Some places I did, some places I didn't. And I got a 35% boost in my productivity myself. So,
It's
right?
been amazing. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we even started to apply that in our business where there was a lot of tools and things that we were leveraging virtual assistants for, and did the same kind of process where I just started to look and say, if you do something more than 2 to 3 times, even in a month, then I want to know about it. And I think that's been the most amazing thing about AI is it allows us to iterate on those things so much faster and put those things into action. I mean, it has made things that are potentially or in the past been out of grasp. Now it's accessible to everyone. And so I think that's really where it's kind of leveling that playing field where agents can really capitalize on this.
So let's talk a little bit about any other things you're working on AI related for DAC Labs that you want to throw a little sneak preview.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got there's and it's interesting, kind of a little bit of backstory where DAKLAB came out originally was that we there was a particular tool that we were working on, which is called the listing blueprint. And this was something where listings can be a very competitive thing, and we wanted to we built this internally, and this, of course, once we saw this, we said, all right, let's kind of expand this out. Where essentially, when you're about to go on a listing appointment, then typically you would have to do a lot of prep work for that. Again, where you're talking about collapsing time. So now, literally, you can go in and give it an email, give it an address, and what you estimate the selling price would likely be. And it immediately starts doing data analysis on that property. And so it creates an entire PDF report, tells you who the target buyer is, demographics, psychographics, what's the marketing strategy based off of that. And we, again, by leveraging AI, there's a lot of tools that you can do, not only pulling that data in, but all right, it's because you haven't gotten the listing, you probably don't have professional photographs or anything. So part of that tool is literally we'll pull a Google Street View and then can run that Google Street View image through AI. Just like that, it looks like a professional photograph. And so literally, this competitive advantage where you can walk in and say, I know you haven't hired me yet, but I've already done predictive analysis to know exactly who's going to buy your home. And here's our marketing strategy. Here's the report, professionally done. I mean, that is just that one tool alone really helps to elevate you and make you stand out from the competition.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think in 2025 and beyond, as we are recording this episode, I believe savvy clients are going to ask real estate agents that question, which is, hey, I'm hearing all this stuff about AI. How do you leverage AI to maximize the exposure to my home? You're going to get that
Exactly.
question. And this, what you just mentioned, you proactively broach that question before it even gets asked. to
Yes.
position you in a better spot. So are you also thinking about building like a voice activated solution with just talking to stuff?
So we got two things that we're kind of working on in the background, incorporated. One that we've just released, and the one that we're also working on. The one that we just released is we've built this tool to make it super easy on agents, and it's almost, think of it like a GUI, a user interface for AI. So it's a lot more focused on point and click, right? But we also know, and I think that AI, and again, going back to this data, it needs to follow me wherever I am. And so I don't want to have to go to a separate tool, or God forbid, multiple tools to be able to leverage that data and leverage AI. So we really want to take that mindset and incorporate that. So where we've just released that DAKLAB now has a real-time connection to a ChatGPT. So if you want to create your own custom ChatGPT, all the things that you can do in DAKLAB, you literally can do that inside of your own custom GPT. And again, the beauty of this is now all of a sudden, you don't just have a custom GPT that you've fed it on a little bit of information or a document or two. Literally, you have access to a database of every cell phone number of every homeowner in the United States. You've got the connection to real estate law. You've got the connection to market data. And so it's it's a pretty cool thing to be able to, no matter where you are, to have that instantly at your fingertips. And then so that's something that we've just released. And then something that we're working on currently is a lot more kind of voice integration. That's going to be in our upcoming app that we're about to release. And so where you can do some role playing, where you could say, hey, I want to, you're a buyer, you're a seller, you're a difficult, you're relocating, whatever those scenarios are. And literally, as you're driving to your appointment, you can go in and give that information and do that role play. And then in addition to that, being able to, again, take that concept of wherever you are, I think that data and AI should be at your fingertips. So if you want to have that listing blueprint and that information, to be able to just simply ask and it give you that real-time information. I mean, I think that that's something that you're not seeing, especially that data connection, you're not seeing, out a lot. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, and I can see, I mean, agents like drive in a half hour to a listing appointment, have conversations, and also kick off, hey, please send me the property snapshot to my email. Here are the details of the property. Just talk to it. Because I think the biggest thing, I mean, you know this because you've had a CRM and web company for a while, and you sort of know the level of adoption or lack thereof of CRMs, right? And I think the AI, the voice computing is going to revolutionize adoption if done properly.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, everyone says like the best CRM is the one that you'll use. I say that the best CRM is the one that's so smart, you don't have to use it to actually use it.
there you
And what
go.
I mean by that is that the best CRM in my mind should already go in and pre-qualify, a lot of your leads. Or if someone's back on the site, we should be able to use that predictive analysis to know and score the quality of the lead. Or to be able to say, there's to your point about the whole adoption is, well, how do I use this tool? Where literally you can say, all right, can you text or can you talk to it? If you can do that, now you could use the tool.
That's it.
Where you can say, remind me to follow up with John Smith next week, and it knows to go ahead and create that follow up. So to your point, that text base, that natural language, the voice, I think that is going to, in a very short time, that's going to become the de facto standard.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think we are definitely in transition to that phase faster than most people realize. So
Yes.
before I get to the final two questions, Brad, I'd love for you to sort of see, where do you see this going with AI? I mean, I know a lot of people are rethinking how they build software. Some of them are backfilling, just registering a domain name and selling solutions, right? I mean, just where do you see AI and the transformation for real estate?
Yeah, so I think that what's really going to happen is that, and this is kind of this next light bulb moment, or I'm looking forward to seeing how what's going to happen here. Is I remember when I was a kid, my parents got me a used old computer, and I flipped it on. It was DOS, so I was looking at a cursor and text in and text out. And the other day I was sitting in front of ChatGPT and kind of had almost a deja vu moment where it's like we are back at the DOS phase of AI. And what I mean by that is predominantly, yes, there's some great tools out there. And what we've tried to do with DAKLAB is to create that GUI interface. But predominantly, most everything is text in and text out. And so being able to think through of like the parallels between if we're at that DOS moment, if ChatGPT is that text in, text out moment, what does Windows 95 look like? What does, the iPhone look like? And so I think that you're going to see things evolved in almost kind of two paths. Number one is, to your point, it's going to be very much natural language and being able to kind of the interfaceless interface. But it's going to be exciting to see kind of where that other side goes of what does that interface even look like right now as it relates to AI. And I think that we're going to get there a lot faster than we realize at the rate that things are going.
Yeah, for sure. I listened to a recent keynote from Steve Brown. He worked at Google DeepMind in the
Uh-huh.
UK, and he lives in Portland, Oregon. And he said, I think we're going to see more innovation in the next 5 years than we've seen in the last 50.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's close for sure. I mean, we're in that 5 year cycle early, but we are in that
Mhm.
cycle for sure. So, all right, let me get to the final two questions. I know you've been in real estate 25 years now, close to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot of agents using your platform. You speak at industry conferences, et cetera. What is the one piece of advice you'd give an agent that's like that they could use timeless? It's timeless piece of advice. It doesn't have to
Sure.
be AI. It could be anything.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think that in kind of thinking this for not just agents, but for myself of that journey through, through the real estate industry, I think a key thing is to focus on being a director and delegator versus a doer.
Mm.
And as it relates to AI, I think there's a double-edged sword here that if we're not careful, we can find ourselves in, where on one hand, AI can really compact time, where it saves us a ton of time. But because like we were talking about earlier, where AI is making everything accessible, the inclination is to say, oh, I can go ahead and just write that copy myself with AI, or I can create that landing page with AI, or I can do this. And so what happens is, and I've also, find myself in this, where almost I get in that trap of if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
And especially now with AI, and so while it's we can make sure that we are directing AI, and I think we're going to continue to see that with AI agents, not real estate agents, but true agents. But the other side of that is that we've got to be careful not to fall in that trap of because it's accessible to become a doer. Because I mean, at the end of the day, so technically I've had my real estate license for 15 years now. I've been in the real estate industry. Technically, I could, with the help of AI, try to sell my home myself, but I would rather, instead of me be the doer, I would rather and leverage AI. I would rather find a real estate agent who then leverages AI and to be able to lean on both AI and their expertise.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's really going to be a crucial thing where agents are got to be careful not to fall in that trap of fizboing your own marketing. And yes, I'm probably a little bit biased in this, but I think that's a key thing to kind of watch out for when it comes to AI and the accessibility of all these things now.
Yeah, well said. I mean, I think everybody owes it to themselves to know the potential of it, know
Yes.
enough to select the
Yeah.
right solutions.
Hmm.
And I think there's like three types of workers in the future. One is like the human workers, One is the digital workers, which is sort of like DAKLAB.AI in a nutshell, an agentic workforce. And then the
Right.
robot workers, which is a whole other topic for another day. But
Hmm.
I think if agents focus on what they do best, which is critical thinking, emotional intelligence, the last mile with their clients, and look at
100%.
solutions that can collapse time with everything else, with digital workers, AI solutions, I think they'll be
Yes.
in the best spot. And delegate, otherwise you'll stagnate, right?
Yes. Yes.
So well said.
100%.
So the final question is, I don't know if you're a book or a podcast person, Brad.
I'm a little bit more of a book or audiobook guy.
Okay, all right, Audible. Okay, so is there a book that has influenced you way more than others that is like your go-to top book that you recommend to the audience to read?
So I'm always embarrassed to give the answer to this question because of the title. But hear me out when you hear the title. It is actually a business book. The business book, strangely enough, is called Getting Naked. It's a fantastic book. It's almost like a business fable, but what it really focuses on is essentially being vulnerable, and that mindset of just get out and show value, right? So kind of similar to how this whole thing started with me, of just going out and saying, I'm not worried about the one invoice I can send. I'm just going to go out and show value to this agent because I think there's a bigger picture there. I think, thinking back, I think we originally met at a real estate bar camp, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. And I loved those because it wasn't sales, it was just go out and show value. And so I think, and this book really talks about that. And so that's really kind of the thing that I try to focus on and live by on the business side of things, is just, if you just show value, good things and connections are going to come about. So that book was really helped to kind of like cement that. And just an old book. I think it's probably been around for 15 plus years, but it really kind of helps to articulate that story there.
Yeah, well, you've surely done that with all the stuff you're doing with DAKNO and the stuff that you're embarking on AI. And this has been fun, Brad. Appreciate the time. Thank you for the
Yeah, great.
discussion. And hopefully, I don't know if an RE bar camp is going to come back again, but I'm looking forward to seeing you sometime in in real life real soon here.
We need to make that happen.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you, Brad. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you.